I wonder if you are optimistic that anything can be done with the sort of the business support and Democratic opposition to slow or stop these bills.
Nicole, I think there is cause for optimism. The rally that Secretary Castro, myself, and hundreds of others attended on Saturday in Austin was the largest rally, largest gathering this entire Texas legislative session. And it was about this issue, people standing up for voting rights, everybody's voting rights. And when you connect what's happening in Texas with these voter suppression bills, what passed and was signed into law in Georgia, Florida, what's pending in Arizona and Kansas, and I think 42 other state legislatures, this is the fight of our lives. And people are showing up, they're stepping up, they're speaking out. And these bills in Texas, SB 7, HB 6, they are not yet law. They still have some procedural hurdles over which they must pass, still has to get to the governor's desk. There's still time for the people of Texas to act. And as you know, there's still time for our friends in the United States Senate and those in the White House to do something about this at a federal level, much like Lyndon Baines Johnson did in 1965 with the Voting Rights Act. This is our opportunity with the For the People Act, which I do think has a chance to pass and to be on the president's desk and would roll back all of these voter suppression efforts in all of the states that I just mentioned, including here in Texas.
Well, I read that news this morning. I'm going to read it for our viewers. From the Brennan Center, 33 of the recently introduced bills would give this is about the poll watchers, more authority to observe voters and election officials with fewer limitations on their actions. This is one of the issues in the Texas bill, and it reminds me of the election officials in Georgia, people like Gabe Sterling, who were screaming at the top of their lungs as he and Brad Raffensperger were assailed and maligned by Donald Trump about their role just as election officials. And I wonder if you can sort of take apart the most insidious pieces of the bills. They're the ones that are about limiting access. Texas has a real problem with absentee voting. It would appear they have a real problem with drive-through voting. It would appear most of the bills, I think, aim to take that away. But the Georgia law, and I think there's something in one version of the Texas law, seeks to disempower election officials who it seemed like if they had fallen the other way, 2020 could have been in jeopardy if Donald Trump had sought to corrupt more partisan election officials. Can you just talk through the different pieces of the bill and tell us what worries you the most?
It gives so-called poll watchers, as you just said, almost unrestrained power within the polling place. Now, these poll watchers really are partisan activists who very often seek to intimidate voters. And historically in Texas, it's been black voters, lower income voters, older voters, voters with disabilities, folks who've been the targets of voter suppression for, frankly, as long as we've been a state. Under these proposed bills, those poll watchers could not be ejected by an election judge, and they can also be free to videotape those who are trying to cast their ballots. And I guarantee you, if that becomes law, it will dissuade a large number of voters from even going to the polling place because, as you mentioned, this is already the hardest state in which to vote. 750 polling place closures over the last 8 years, producing lines that stretch 6, 7, 8 hours long, concentrated in the fastest growing Black and Latino neighborhoods. When you do away with 24-hour voting, drive-through voting, limit the number of voting machines in polling places, all under the guise, by the way, of standardizing elections. Sounds relatively innocuous and inoffensive, but will end up affecting and targeting these populations. And it's going to make it already harder in a state that's the hardest to vote in. And it will affect the outcomes of elections, presidential elections, congressional elections, gubernatorial elections, commissioner elections. This is our democracy in Texas, connected to everything happening in this country. And it's the biggest attack on democracy in our history. That's why we need a response here, but we also need one in Washington, D.C. from the Senate and the White House.
Do you ever sort of, I know a little bit about your schedule because we try to schedule with your staff. I mean, do you ever look up and say, all of this is over a BS lie? I mean, none of this is real. And your attorney general actually worked really hard to find real fraud and didn't. Ken Paxton's office spent 22,000 hours looking for voter fraud and uncovered 16 cases of false addresses. No fraud. Bill Barr said there was no fraud. Chris Christie said there was no fraud. Liz Cheney said there was no fraud. Mitch McConnell said there was no fraud. Kevin McCarthy said there was no fraud. Donald Trump has perpetuated a lie that now has 47 states looking at 370 voter restriction laws. I mean, voter suppression, it didn't have to happen this way. The lie is what is fueling these laws. And every state doesn't have a Stacey Abrams or a Beto O'Rourke. How do you fight this in every state without the federal legislation?
It's the lie that inspires these 370 plus voter suppression bills across 47 state legislatures. But it's also the lie that in large part inspired the insurrectionists on the 6th of January to storm the Capitol, to kill 5 people, including a Capitol police officer, and to come perilously close to hanging the then Vice President of the United States and murdering sitting members of Congress. We should have no comfort in the fact that Joe Biden, despite that, was successfully inaugurated and has had a relatively successful administration so far. Democracy is still under attack legislatively. It's under attack violently. And if we do not repel this attack and strengthen our democracy, I'm very afraid we will lose it. And so given everything that we're up against, Nicole, I think it's really incumbent upon the president and the vice president, the administration, and the Democratic Senate leadership to make this priority number one. Everything else is only possible when our democracy is working. And if we don't get For the People passed in the Senate, Joe Biden does not sign that into law, I'm afraid we'll lose our democracy. I'm afraid that we'll have elections that will be contested and not recognized for the rightful winners. The form of government that we've taken for granted all these many hundreds of years, the last best hope of Earth, as Abraham Lincoln put it, will be lost if we don't act and win now. That's how important this is.
You know, I thought back to your 2018 race, and I was texting. You weren't a regular on this program. I had no connection other than knowing that state and knowing how Republicans usually ran in places and knowing that Ted Cruz was running way behind. And I wonder if you think that folks like yourself just got too close, that Texas got too close. This is all, and I say this sort of as someone not proud of all my time in the Republican Party, but the Republicans do a very good job of executing one plan. This is to them existential. Republicans know that if that, I'm sure if that race were held again against you, and I wonder if this figures into your thoughts about running for statewide office again. But if you could answer both those questions, whether you're thinking of another statewide run and whether you think that Democratic leaders appreciate how existential this is for Republicans. This is ball game to them. They need to make it harder for people who would vote for you instead of Ted Cruz because they know they can't win when it's fair and square.
It's very telling that the first state to pass and have these voter suppression bills signed into law was Georgia, where Joe Biden became the first Democrat in nearly 3 decades to win the Electoral College vote, where you had 2 long-shot Democratic Senate victories in January of this year. And so, of course, Republicans, as you just suggested, understand that their ability to win free and fair elections may be close to over in states like Georgia. So they're going to change the rules and move the goalposts further back to try and secure their purchase on power. Same thing going on in Florida, which is a close battleground state. Same thing going on in Texas, which in 2024 will have 40 electoral college votes and could really decide the ball game in terms of who the next president is. And so, of course, they're trying to make it even harder to vote in this state. Personally, I'm going to do whatever it takes, either as a volunteer helping to register voters, to fight back against voter suppression by traveling to the Capitol and organizing volunteers and working with other great grassroots organizations, or potentially running as a candidate for statewide office. The question really for me is, where can I do the greatest good? Where can I be most helpful? And I think key to answering that is listening to other people, especially my fellow Texans. But right now, I'm grateful to be working with Powered by People and our volunteers to do this on the ground, grassroots, door-to-door canvassing work that even if these bills are passed and signed into law, gives us a chance to register enough new voters and engage with enough existing voters to still win these elections.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. You should know that you can follow today's top stories and breaking news and catch up on your favorite MSNBC shows all in one place. Download the NBC News app today.